Hello friends, my name is Shayla and today I am here to film my wrap up for you. This will conclude the second half of January. I meant to film one about a week ago because I had enough titles, but I did never get around to it. So this one will be longer than ones going forward. So just a heads up about that. So it's a lot. I'm not going to ramble here, but if you are ever interested in early access to videos like these, you can look in the description about becoming a member and the perks that you get from various tiers. I would love to see you all hanging out in my Discord and having a good time while we get early access to videos. And if you do, you might be able to beat Izzy or Tamika to being to the videos first. All right, so anyways, with that out of the way, let's dive in. I'm going to start with the manga because I've got less of that than the books, and then we'll go from there. So first up, let's talk about Practice Makes Perfect. I reread volume 1 and then read volumes 2, 3, and 4. This was our Thirsty Thursday pick for the month of January. We have done our live show. I will leave it linked in the corner. It is 18 plus just because, you know, we're talking about smutty things and it was live and I just didn't want people reporting it anyway. So I would love it if you would go there and get our thoughts. We all ended up enjoying this one quite a bit. And so it's a really sweet josei romance about two athletes who are virgins practicing romantic touches and feelings together, and they end up in a romantic relationship. It's really sweet and cute, and I really loved it. I do wish the end had been a little more fleshed out, but that's really my only complaint about the series. Otherwise, I just loved and adored it. The next thing I'm going to mention is I did another NetGalley manga reading vlog. So if you want my thoughts on the following titles, you can go to that video for those. So I've got Yona of the Dawn 28, Snow White with the Red Hair 12, Orient Volume 1, Fly Me to the Moon Volume 4, Blue Flag Volume 6, Shortcake Cake Volume 11, Komi Can't Communicate Volume 11, Beast Complex Volume 1, and Mermaid Saga Volume 2, which is the final Mermaid Complex. Mermaid Saga, not Mermaid Complex. Beast Complex, Mermaid Saga. I said that all jumbled, I'm sorry. Let's get into the physical things because that is all that was digital. So first up, I have Cutie and the Beast Volume 2. I love and adored this second volume. I hate where it ended because I have no idea when we'll get Volume 3. But in this, we continue to follow Momoka and Kuga as they start to deal with their feelings with one another. And the event, it immediately picks up from the panel of the last volume into this one. So there's no time skip or anything, but I just love Kuga all the more with this volume. It is a really cute age gap. I love it so much. Definitely check this one out. Next up, I had a volume 1 that I tried, and that is Dear Nomen by Neji. In this one, we have like a 14-year-old girl who can see things on the other side, as we say, and she ends up discovering the Nomens, and she was kind of led away by one of these Nomens, and they were about to attack them when this crow woman comes and saves her and rescues her, and then they start to put this young lady, Mashiro, to work. And this is really cute. It's kind of got Yuri vibes because Bazu, the crow woman, ends up in a contract with Mashiro because Mashiro sits up after like passing out and kisses her. And so it's this, I think it's eventually going to be a Yuri. It's kind of got those vibes. There's Twitter-pated feelings, at least. So I don't know how to feel because of that, because she is 14. So know that before you go into this one. But I am interested in trying at least one more volume of this one because I think it's going to be an interesting time. Next up, I read volume 1 of Mint Chocolate. Mint Chocolate is a new shoujo series being put out by Yen Press, in which we have two teenagers who attended the same high school who have now found out they're step-siblings. Nanami has been crushing on Kyohei for a long time, and Kyohei has likewise been crushing on her. He knew they were probably going to end up being step-siblings, but she didn't. So he didn't discourage his dad because he wanted chances to interact with her more. So it does have that taboo thing where it looks like they're exploring their feelings while living in the same house. Granted, they are older teens, so I'm a little more okay with this. And they already had interest in each other before they knew they were going to be step-siblings. So yes, it's good. The art is adorable. I love this. It's not going to be for everybody because of that taboo element, but man, I'm here for it. Next, we have a really sweet one, and that was Mama Akuma Volume 1, again being put out by Yen Press. In this one, we have this young woman named Sakura, and Sakura has never known her mother. Her mother died in childbirth, I believe, or died when she was really young and she can't remember her. And so what she does is she summons this demon named Cien, and the Cien will grant any wish that they want. And she says, I want you to be my mama. And so this is about this demon who's been summoned and made a contract with this child and is now being her mother. Originally, he thought it was to be like embodying her mother, like visually. And she's like, no, don't do that. So he remains in his demon form, and she does have a father, and he kind of vets Cien and he's okay with it. So it's really fun. I really love this. All right, up next on the list is Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts. In Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts, I talk about the series all the time. There's 3 more volumes after this. There's 13, 14, and 15. 15 is the final volume. We just found out we're getting an anime for this. I am thriving in my Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts life. If you like fantasy romance shoujo, like Yona of the Dawn or Requiem of the Rose King, you better pick this one up. It is so good. It is so, so good, guys. Like, I'm just going to tell you forever to pick this up, because I have yet to find a volume that I found like weak or slower than the other. Like, they've all been fantastic, and I really enjoy the series. Next up is another series that I tried. I borrowed this volume from a friend, and that is Eniale and Delilah, I think is how you say that, Volume 1. So this is essentially about an angel and a demon forming a kind of enemies to lovers style friendship. Enemies to friends, I guess you could say. So it's a very tumultuous friendship, I guess we should say. So they get up to all sorts of shenanigans. They both love fashion, and that's what they've kind of bonded over. But, you know, the opening sequence is about how the fact that Delilah had stolen a lipstick from Eniale, and it's just really fun. I don't know if this turns into a Yuri later, but they have really sweet feelings for each other. But they're an angel and a demon, so naturally they're going to disagree on things. And so it's interesting. I really enjoyed the process of reading it. And then last but not least for the manga, let's talk about Sweat and Soap Volume 5. I love this with my whole heart and soul. These two are precious beyond precious. They must be protected at all costs. I love this series so much. I have yet to dislike a volume. Everything about them is great. They have a very healthy relationship where they talk and discuss things. He doesn't ever pressure her. Like, they have a very realistic and healthy relationship, and I love seeing that depicted in manga. So in this one, we're spending more time with her family and some things like that. I just love it. I just love it. And I'm going to tell you I love it again, but just go read it. Okay? Okay. Alrighty, that is it for the manga. Let's go on to the books. I'm going to go through my physical reads first, and then we will go into the digital ones. So first up, we're going to talk about my only DNF for this month, and that is River's Dream by Virginia Lynn. This has a plus-sized heroine, and this was written in 1991. That's all I'm going to say. So it is toxic. It is not okay. I did not enjoy the representation, and I couldn't deal, so I put it down. And I plan on unhauling this. I do not plan to revisit, and I'm sad because the premise of this was really promising, and I just couldn't do it. It was too much. All right, on to the next one, which is Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. This is the 4th book in the Bridgerton series. This is Colin's story. I have some tabs here at the end of some really beautiful things that happened. This is by far my favorite Bridgerton book thus far. I still have 4 books to go in the series, and I love this one. This is Colin and Penelope, and I love it so much. And they both grow throughout this process. We see them deal with some very realistic things for the kind of relationship that they have. I'm trying very hard not to spoil anything because we're 4 books into a series, but I love this. I love this so much, and it is fantastic. Very well done. And I'm looking forward to continuing on in the Bridgerton series. Up next, I have a buddy read that I did with Melissa over at Libraries and Labradors. By the way, anybody I buddy read with is down below. And this is One War Blue by Heather Graham. Now, this is a Civil War romance. I'm going to tell you that right up front. And we have a heroine on the side of the South and the hero on the side of the North. And this is about her denying herself happiness because she's not willing to look at why he is on the other side. She immediately calls him a traitor. She doesn't want to give up her plantation. She still thinks slavery is bad and all those kinds of things. So I had a big struggle with it because of our heroine. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars, but it's really more like a 3-star, I think. The more I've stepped away from it, because the writing was superb and the hero was great. I really liked our hero and I really loved the writing. But the heroine really took down my love of the story, and the end was a little unbelievable to me. Outside of that, like, it was good. So I do think I'll pick up other Heather Grahams, but I don't know if I'm going to pick up any more Civil War Heather Graham, if that makes sense. Another one that I felt just kind of meh and lukewarm about was Gentle Rogue by Joanna Lindsey, which makes me really sad to say. This is a very beloved Joanna Lindsey, and this is just kind of forgettable, honestly. Like, I struggled with parts of it when I read it, and I really don't even remember too much about it. It's been a couple weeks since I read it, and it's just kind of forgettable. I mean, my favorite parts were them on the ship. Outside of that, I just kind of didn't care. So this one was not a great Joanna Lindsey for me. I've read Temptation's Darling by Joanna Lindsey, which is a more recent publish, and I really loved that. So I'm not giving up on Joanna Lindsey. I do have some other ones. I might have cared more if I'd read the other Mallorys first, because this is like the 3rd book in the Mallory series, and I haven't read the others, so I don't know. Anyway, I'm sorry. I just feel kind of lukewarm about it. Up next, we have Homebody by Ruby Kaur. This is a poetry collection. She's very well known for her poetry collections. I ended up enjoying this collection quite a bit. Most of it I connected with fairly well, but there was a chunk of it where I was just like, nah, I'm not really jiving with this section. So I gave it 4 stars. I do enjoy Ruby Kaur. I know not everybody does, and a lot of people struggle with her style of poetry, but I enjoyed it. It all connected with me in a way that was really lovely. And so yes, not everybody loves modern poetry, so just know that, but I enjoyed it. 4 stars. Next up, we have Phantom's Lament by Nicole Nichols. This is the 2nd book in the Shadows Creed saga. This is a samurai-inspired YA fantasy, and honestly, the series is like watching an anime as you read it. It is fantastically written. I really enjoy it. It's an indie pub. Thank you to Noelle Nichols for reaching out to have me as part of the blog tour again. I ended up really enjoying being part of it, and she's just the sweetest. Like, she sent a little happy holidays card because this came during December, and it was just great. I really enjoy the series, and I look forward to as much as they want to write in the series. Up next, we have The Glass Queen by Gina Showalter. This was our Tell It Again book for January. April and I did the live show. I will leave that linked in the corner if you want our thoughts. We liked this one better than the first one in the series. We really loved the heroine and the hero more, but the world is kind of confusing, and we feel like it's intentionally confusing, so that the end has more shock value, which is unnecessary. I mean, it is a YA title, but it was still very heavy-handed, and it's just okay. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It was fine. I'll keep it with the other one, obviously, but I don't think I'm going to pick up any more in the series. All right, last for the physicals. Ugh. The Monster. That is Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. I loved this book so very much. 5 stars for me. The direction of this series has me theory crafting so much, and I can't say very much because this is the 4th book in a series, but in the series we are on a planet called Roshar, and this is all about 2 factions of people warring against one another because there are other beings trying to take things over. It's really interesting. This definitely connects other parts of the Cosmere that we weren't expecting to be connected yet to this world. So know that, and it is so good. I cried multiple times reading this. This is going to possibly be triggering for some people. It is very heavy on mental health, we have a character with multiple personality disorder, and we have a character with very severe depression. So there are those triggers going into this. So it's going to be a trigger for the whole series because they both have these symptoms throughout. But this book is very much confronting some of the things that they face because of their mental disorders. And it is beautiful. It is brilliant. I love it so much. Highly recommend forever and ever. I'm just going to slide that right where it lives. All right, let's move on to the digital things that I've read. So we have Ravish Me with Rubies by Jane Feather. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It was just a very middle of the road, kind of forgettable, historical to me. I feel like this is kind of, again, a book that's multiple books into the series. So I think maybe if I had started at the beginning, I would care a little bit more. But I felt like it was trying to be overly feminist for its time period, and it just didn't quite work for me. So I did give it 3 stars. This was one of my NetGalley arcs, and honestly, like, I do think I want to try more Jane Feather. The writing wasn't bad per se. I just didn't get along with this particular story. Next up on the list is Return of the Thief by Megan Whalen Turner. This is the final book in the Queen's Thief series. I adored this book. I really think it wrapped up the series perfectly. I buddy read this with Heather over at Hia Booktubes. We had a fantastic time with it, and it was just the perfect ending to me. I really loved it, and I feel like you didn't know, there was no plot armor protecting your characters in this book. So it was really, really good. I really enjoyed that. Next, we have The X Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon. Now, this is about public radio, and it's about a woman who's been a producer, though she's wanted to be behind the mic for a long time, and kind of the hotshot guy that's come in, and they pose as a couple that's broken up because they already have that kind of enemies chemistry, and they host this radio show about exes coming together to talk. So they've kind of been lying over the air, and it's about them falling in love and wanting an actual relationship together, and it was really sweet. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. And I do think the grand gesture was pretty well done considering what it could have been. And yes, so if this sounds interesting to you at all, I highly recommend picking it up. I'm definitely going to be reading more Rachel Lynn Solomon. Then we have Reunited on Dragonfly Lane by Annie Raines. Obviously, this is a second chance romance for 2 people. It is so sweet. It is so beautiful. It takes place in the best small town. I love the Sweetwater Springs people. And it's just so good. There's really not a lot I can say about it other than it's fantastic. Read the series, please, if you like small town romance. They are low on the smut level, but they are really sweet romances. I really end up enjoying the series. And I gave that one 4 stars as well. Next, we have Highland Defender by Catherine Levesque. I ended up really enjoying this Highlander romance. It kind of has this, he's left the Highlands. He's been kind of just bumming around trying to figure things out. He ends up rescuing a woman who had her sausages stolen. Yes, she had her sausages stolen for her mistress. And she ends up kind of giving him a safe place to land. They fall in love very quickly, but then they're separated, and it's about them coming back together. It's really sweet. I ended up really enjoying it, giving it 4 stars. Next, we have book 2 in the Winston Brothers series, which is Grin and Beard It. This is Jethro's story. He ends up falling in love with a movie star named Sienna. Sienna's come to town. She wants a break, but she has to film a movie. She's trying to slowly step away, but her sister, who's her manager, won't let her. And Jethro is entertaining the idea of being romantic with a woman, even though he hasn't been romantic with a woman for 5 years. So if you like Penny Reed and the Winston Brothers, you'll probably really enjoy this. I did read the 3rd book in the Winston Brothers series as well, which is Beard Science, which is Cletus's book. It's Cletus and the Banana Cake Queen. The amount of times I heard Banana Cake Queen in this book made me give the book 4 stars. I do like the chemistry between Cletus and Jen. I think it was really organic and sweet, and Cletus is just Cletus, and I ended up really enjoying that. I gave it 4 stars. Then we have Friends Like Us by Sarah Mackenzie. This is a great story about female friendship. There is an element of cancer, so I'm going to put a trigger warning out there for that. And it's really just a beautiful story of female friendship. We really need to have more people talking about stories about female friendship because there aren't nearly as many as there should be. That's just how I feel about that. And then last but not least is a book I'm probably going to talk about for a minute because it was very impactful. And it was called Then There Was You by Mona Schroff. Now, this cover looks all sorts of cute and adorable, right? This book had me in my feelings. It took me about a week to actually read it because it was so emotionally gutting. There is a list of trigger warnings in my Goodreads review for this, but we have grief, loss of a loved one, loss of a child, miscarriage, depression, alcoholism. Like, there's a lot of triggers. So those are all in my Goodreads review if you want the full list. In this one, we have a man named Daniel. Daniel is he's like an EMT on a chopper. I don't know. He's basically emergency rescue, but he's also a PN at the local hospital. And when he shows up on a call outside of a restaurant, he sees this woman that he had a connection with at the hospital about 5 months back. And this woman, Annika, doesn't recognize him initially, but then he comes into the bar and she recognizes him, like on one of his days off. Basically, as she was miscarrying her child and her douche canoe of a boyfriend at the time broke up with her, he came into her room and just held her while she fell apart. And, held on to him like a life raft. And they just kind of sat there in their grief together, and he didn't let her be alone. And Daniel hasn't been able to stop thinking about her since. And so he is called on his stalker-ish behavior at like 30 or 40, like it might be 40 or 50% into the book. But he's called on his behavior, and that's addressed. So don't worry about that. Anyways, from there, they start to enter into a romantic relationship because she is of Indian descent. She's a school teacher. She has one of the fathers that was like a total douche canoe on her first day too, and that was the same day as the accident. So anyway, she's of Indian descent, and so people judge her because of her skin color. Danielle's Indian, but he's white passing, so he has to prove that he's Indian to people. And so there's this really great dynamic of their culture together, as well as just being seen for their grief for the children that they've lost. I am going to put one more trigger out there because I think it's an important one, and that is school shooting. He lost his daughter at a school shooting. He had dropped her off at school with her teacher. He had left, and a school shooting happened that day. And he's like, if I had only stayed a little longer, and he felt all sorts of grief and guilted himself for it. This book is really hard to read, but it is so beautiful. You cannot deny that it's a 5-star book. It is so well written. I'm definitely going to try to find more Mona Schroff books. I don't know if this was a debut. I don't know. But all I know is I definitely need more because this was stunning. I've not read anything quite like it where you see two people dealing with grief and loss of children coming together in that way, where they lost them differently, I guess I should say. But anyways, on that note, I'm going to let you guys go. That is everything that I've read in the month of January. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite read from January was, and I will see you guys in the next one.